Yes, our God is a mountain mover, and you know what? He's still moving mountains every day. And the good news is He can move your mountains too. Hi there, this is Chuck Cooper, host of It's a God Thing radio program. Thank you for joining us today. We sure are glad you're here. You're about to listen to some awesome interviews with believers in Jesus Christ who will tell you how God has revealed and proved Himself to them by moving mountains they were unable to move by themselves. They say that their stories can only be described as a God thing. Ready for a real blessing? Alrighty then, let's do this God thing. Today we have the privilege of visiting with Gary Franklin. And Gary, we want to welcome you to the program. Gary has such a great, tremendous story about how God intervened in his life. So, Gary, tell us your story.
All right, Chuck, it's good to be here. Started, once I start recollecting, it started in 1980. I had gotten sick, went to the hospital thinking I had the flu or whatever, and I was there a day or so, my heart stopped.
Wow.
And they come running in and stabbed me in the chest with needles, and that's about all I remember of that. Then for about the next month or two, they sent me to Cincinnati Deaconess Hospital, checked it out, and said, "Oh, you don't have anything wrong with your heart." I said, "Okay." So it went on.
It had stopped, but they couldn't figure out why. It
stopped, and they don't know why. And to this day, I don't know why. In 1984, I got sick again, and I noticed I was drinking constantly. I could drink a gallon of water without taking a breath. And they put me in the hospital and done all kinds of testing. I was there for a month, just about a month and a half in the hospital. Seen every psychiatrist in the world, telling me I was nuts. It was in my head. You know, I didn't need to be drinking this much water or what, anything.
Right.
I said, okay. So finally, about a month and a half, they let me out. I wasn't the same ever since. I didn't know what was going on, but nobody else knew either. So I just lived life and went ahead.
And did you feel okay, or did you feel strange?
No, I always felt funny. I didn't know what the feeling was. You just had that feeling that you would, the old saying, I'd kill for a drink.
Yeah.
I would kill for a glass of water. That was the feeling I'd have constantly, 24 hours a day. Then in 1986, I had passed out at work, woke up in the emergency room, and they didn't know what was going on. So we're going through all this again. You're making it up. There's nothing.
Right.
Called my family in, told my family that I was just
nuts,
making this all crazy.
Yeah.
I always had bad palpitations. My heart rate would get up to 300.
Good gracious, Gary.
And nobody could tell me why. They put me on drugs for it, but never gave me an answer. So that went on. In 1986, I woke up in the hospital again in the ER, dying of thirst. And I kept telling them, please give me a drink. Well, they won't give you a drink.
Right.
Nobody knew anything. So they called in this little Japanese doctor, Dr. Wanik. And he says, I think I know what your problem is. We're going to put you on 48 hours water deprivation. And I about went through the roof. Because, I would sneak in, and it's not the best thing to say, but if I had to drink water out of the back of the toilet, I would have took a drink of water.
You were craving the water that much.
I was craving the water so bad.
Now, when you drank the water, Gary, did you feel better?
No, I became water intoxicated.
Oh, okay.
And what I was doing, I was drowning and didn't even know it.
My goodness.
So, but nobody could tell me anything.
Right.
So they did this water deprivation, took everything away, made sure I couldn't get in the bathroom, sneak drinks or anything.
Right.
And he came back and he said, well, it's positive. You have diabetes insipidus. He said, when did you hurt your head? And I'm like, I don't know. So, of course, I'm in the hospital all this time again, thinking, the family's thinking of what went on. The only thing we remember is I was playing softball, third base. I run into a pole chasing a foul ball and hit my head here. It destroyed my pituitary gland. So they figured out what was causing the thirst.
Yeah.
So they thought the thirst was causing the rapid heartbeat because I would drink so much. And, of course, when you drink that much, you go to... You have to avoid it.
Sure.
You have to avoid it.
Right.
And when you're in the hospital, they put you on bed rest, you can't get up. They give you a urinal.
Right.
Well, I would say, bring me 3 more.
3 of them. Yeah,
I would fill 4 urinals.
Yeah.
At one time.
Ooh.
And then turn around and have to drink a gallon of water.
Yeah.
And so they said, that's what's causing your pulse and your heart rate and everything. So it went on. I lived that way for a long time. They finally come out with a medicine that come from Switzerland. And it was good when it worked. But if it didn't get up in your nasal cavity just right, if you had a cold, you're just wasting the medicine. It went on until 1994. I kept feeling worse and worse. I started having chest pains, just terrible chest pains, jaw pain, arms, fingertips hurt.
That all the signs of a heart attack.
Exactly. I mean, I was going to work every day like that because, I was stubborn. I'd mow the yard and collapse when I got done or whatever. But they said there was nothing wrong with my heart.
Yeah.
So we went to breakfast May 24th, 1994. We got in the restaurant, and I knew I was sick. I knew something was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife at the time had said, you're going to the hospital. So we went to the hospital. Well, I was in a full-blown heart attack.
Mm.
And they sent me a doctor who says, well, we're just going to check you out. We're going to send you home. Of course, I said, okay, because I don't want to be here anyway.
Sure.
And the cardiologist come in and said, no, you're not going home. You're having a heart attack. So they rushed me downstairs. They found out that I had just about 100% blockage in an artery, a blood clot.
Mm.
And from what they tell me, I had been having blood clots all this time since my heart stopped.
Yeah.
And it filtered and worked its way out and didn't just, didn't kill me.
Right.
And they took me down for a procedure to open up the arteries. They had an accident and they nicked my artery in another place. So I remember them having to stop the procedure because I was bleeding to death on the table.
Yeah.
I remember the next thing I remember is they put me out. I don't remember anything after that. I woke up and they told me what had happened. And I started, after you have procedure or anything, especially in your groin, you hurt.
Sure.
I said, okay, I hurt. He said, okay, well, let's look at it. Looked like I had a grapefruit in my groin.
Mm.
So he says, well, this is the doctor that sent me first, going to send me home.
Right.
He said, okay, you come to my office next week and we'll look at that, and because you're looking pretty good. Well, it was solid black.
Yeah.
And it was draining, and I thought, no, this isn't right. So I got upset and went to my cardiologist's office, and they called an ambulance right then and there and took me in. I had an aneurysm in the artery, so I was bleeding to death again. And I got to the hospital and started having a heart attack. And from that point on, I was probably hospitalized, I think, every 4 to 6 weeks, having to have arteries opened up. I had... They went through the brachial in the arm and put radiation in there to open the arteries. Today, I have 8 stents. I've probably had, 35, 40 caths.
Good.
I've had angioplasty probably 30 times. I've been told that once I get in there and they see the blockages are worse, you hear the doctors talking before they knock you out. You hear the doctors talking. And, I've heard, probably 20 times that I'm not going to get off the table. I'm not going to make it off the table.
Right.
So I gave my heart to God when I was real young. And I know that the enemy's been after me. Every time I go to sing, somebody gets a blessing or I share my testimony, something else happens. I got in with trust.
Let me interrupt here and explain to our listeners that, Gary, you sing high tenor
yes, sir.
In Trust Quartet, which is based out of Okeechobee, Florida, and y'all travel all over the country,
right.
Particularly eastern part of the country, putting on concerts and conducting services.
Right.
Okay, so excuse me, but I wanted our guests to know that.
Okay. When they asked me to audition, they knew my history. I told them the truth straight up,
right.
But I've been doing good. What it comes down to is I spent 14 years on my back. I couldn't, where we lived, we had an upstairs. I couldn't go upstairs to take a shower. I had to have help being fed. I had to have help bathing, getting dressed, because I didn't have the breath to walk to the front door.
Goodness
so I spent
gracious.
14 years, I couldn't lay flat to sleep, so I spent 14 years on my back in a recliner.
Literally.
And I had another heart attack laying in the recliner one time. And they told me that the blockages were very bad. That's when they gave me the radiation. I had another bleed. They couldn't get the bleeding stopped after the surgery.
Right.
So they had big old doctors, big guys. I thought, well, they'll stop it in 5 minutes.
Sure.
Went on for hours and hours. I'm just sitting there bleeding and screaming because the pain was unbearable.
Right.
And I remember got it stopped, took me back to my room after the heart attack. And I started bleeding again. Nurse come in, there was blood everywhere. And she was pregnant. She was a young nurse. She was pregnant. She climbed on top of me, put her knee in my groin, and they couldn't get the surgeon.
Yeah.
They couldn't get a hold of him. She sat there for 3 hours, and I'm just bleeding to death, and she's soaked in the blood. And
she tried to stop it by putting pressure on it.
Yes, sir. She's trying to stop it. She sat there, and she was miserable, and I was screaming. Finally, somebody come in and shot me full of drugs, and I was out of it. They took me to surgery to clean up the artery and clean out everything. Well, I about bled to death there.
Good.
So I was told that I was going to have a lot of problems. So that added into the 14 years. Then when I joined Trust Quartet,
and when did you join them, Gary?
I've been with Trust Quartet 2 years.
Oh, 2 years.
2 years now. And I joined them. I didn't have any problems. I was doing pretty good. I was back on my feet, because I've been told I'd never sing again. So I sold all my sound equipment. I sold suits, tie, everything I had I got rid of because I was told, you never talk, you never walk, you never sing. I didn't need them. So I laid there for 14 years. Finally, one day at the end of 2007, I got to thinking. I said, Lord, this can't be what's meant for me. Look what you've let me do. This can't be the end of this right here.
Right.
And I started hearing this little voice saying, get up. And I said, okay. I'd hear it again. Get up. Audible. It said, get up. Even if I prayed, it would always ring in my head. Mm-hmm. Just get up. Do what you're told and get up. So I said, okay, Lord, if this is you and I get up, you got to hold me up. Well, he's held me up ever since. I'm back on the road. The doctors let me tour and sing, go back on the road. And then in May of 2009, I showed up at rehearsal with the group. We rehearsed twice a week. I couldn't talk. I couldn't hold my hands up. I couldn't move my fingers. I couldn't walk. I was literally carried in to sit down. We're trying to sing. I couldn't even open my mouth. I didn't have the strength. And the group's getting upset, like, oh my gosh, what did we get into?
Yes, right.
And I felt bad, but I'm determined I'm not going to miss rehearsal. This is my ministry, and I'm not missing it. Well, then we had dinner, and they said, you've got to go to the hospital. By then, I was so sick, I was ready to go.
Now, this was in May of 2009?
This is May of 2009.
Okay.
And I got to the hospital, and they asked me to get up on the gurney, and I couldn't even turn my head to say no. I couldn't do nothing. And they smelled ammonia, and that's what I was tasting and smelling for about 2 weeks, ammonia. And they said, oh no. So they done blood work and come back in. This doctor come in, surgeon come in, and they started shaving my groin and started putting tubes in me, and they said I was in complete kidney failure.
Oh, my.
And they rushed me to ICU, put me up there, and hooked me up to the dialysis system up there, and told me I probably wouldn't live till the morning. And told my...
For the umpteenth time.
Yeah, I've heard that quite a lot. I overheard them telling my wife, my then wife, that, do what you got to do, but he's not going to be here in the morning. So they run the dialysis and everything, and drugged me up, sent me down to surgery, put in all the, where they put the shunts or whatever they call those in you and everything.
Right.
Sent me downstairs for another dialysis treatment. And I started feeling good. What they had told me is to this day, we don't know why, my potassium had shot up to almost 9.5. And they said that's enough to execute 2 prisoners with potassium.
Good.
That's how they kill them, execute.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness. And they kept telling me I wasn't going to live. But I was feeling so much better and so good, because naturally there's a prayer chain everywhere.
Yes.
All across the country, and I'm sitting there praying, and I'm laying there on the table talking to this lady who was cursing God next to me.
Yeah.
On the gurney next to me. So I got to minister to her and talk with her, and she calmed down. I don't know what happened to her now. I wish I did. But I went back upstairs, and the kidney doctor come in, and he said, well, we had to cover your heart because you had complications. I said, okay. I said, but I feel good. It wasn't 2 days later, the kidney doctors and the heart doctors come back in and said, we're going to let you go home at the end of the week. And I said, okay. They said, we don't find anything wrong with your kidneys.
Praise the
There's
Lord.
There's nothing there. Potassium is a little low, so that threat is gone. Said there's no after effects, and said your kidneys are back to where they should have been. I said, okay. So I'm thinking, I had a little Christian nurse, and we praised the Lord together there, because I was alone when they told me that at that time. And it went on good. I went good for about a year. And January of this year.
So had you resumed singing?
I had resumed singing.
Okay.
They let me go back. We were going on a tour in Ohio and Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So the doctors had it lined up. Doctors they knew in hospitals, if I needed my dialysis treatment, we'd stop off the road and have that done. But then they said, you don't need it.
And Trust was okay with those.
Trust was okay with it.
Okay.
When they found out what was wrong, they were okay with it because they knew the Lord did it.
Yeah.
So I got back to singing. And January this year, I think I was talking to Angie. We were talking, and I was having chest pains. And they were so bad, they scared me. I've been through so much, it got to where it didn't scare me all the time.
Yes, right.
But those scared me. And instead of calling 911, I kept talking to my friend.
Yeah.
I kept talking to her. And she's going to call 911. Well, I was stubborn because I knew I was so scared because they were worse than I've ever had. Mm-hmm. So I finally get the ambulance there and get to the hospital, and they said, we're going to take you right straight to surgery. They took me down there, and they found 2 blockages. And they said, okay, we're going to look at it. We know they're there. We don't know how bad they are until we get inside. So they put me in the lab and went in there. And I overheard him talking that, he's going to need more meds because it's worse than what we thought. I had one that was 99 and I think 98%, 99 and 98%. And they were fragmented, which means if a little piece broke off, I was gone.
Yeah.
Of the plaque. And I didn't get scared at that point because I get emotional, I'm sorry. I instantly said, God, hold my hand.
Sure.
And they have your hand on the operating tables. They have your hands in these things, and I could just get real warm. And I said, okay, I know you're here with me.
Sure.
And the medical team I had, I was impressed because they've worked on me so many times over the last 15 years. Yeah. They know me by name, and I know them by name.
Yes.
And they were good to me. Once I felt that warmth in my hand, I wasn't scared. I was scared of what I kept hearing them say.
Oh, absolutely.
He might not get off this table.
Yeah.
On his own. And when they went in to do the procedure, they made another mistake. They stabbed completely through the artery and through a vein that connects up the right side and down this leg. So I'm bleeding again, and you're hearing these words, we got to do something, or he's
out of here.
He's gone in minutes, and then they gave me the drugs. I don't remember too much more after that. But I woke up in my room, up by ICU. I woke up in my room, and I think my parents were there. And somebody called me. One of my friends, Rick, had tried to get through and couldn't get through. And I don't remember it, but I know Angie called me and was asking what was going on. And to this day, I don't know what I said or anything. But I said, well, my chest still hurts. Why do I feel so bad after this? They said, well, they haven't done your arteries yet. Because then I put 2 and 2 together. The surgeon wouldn't operate and fix my groin where they tore the artery until the arteries were fixed in the heart.
There you go.
Well, the cardiologist wouldn't do nothing until they fixed the arteries in the groin.
Catch-22.
So they drugged me up and kept pressure on me, and I'm just laying there bleeding to death, And finally, they made a decision that they had to get back in there and open them up. And normally, it's about an hour and a half procedure. I think I was in there about 4 hours, what I've been told. So they had a rough time getting those open. It's been ever since I been in the ministry. He's tried to kill me one way or the other.
And
hasn't
yet.
No, he hasn't yet. The more I share my testimony, the worse it gets. He thinks he's going to get me with a heart attack or kidney failure or bleeding to death.
Right.
But you don't think about this at first glance. After all of this, I look back. Every time something like this has happened to me, somebody in that hospital I got to witness to and talk to. And I had the last patient I had when I had the heart scare this year was a young man that I was there when the doctors told him he was going to die. And he didn't know what to do. His family didn't have anything to do with him. So we got to talk to him and witness to him. And they transferred him out. He had his surgery, and I heard he survived it. But, I look at the devil and I say, what are you getting out of this? You're just giving me a greater testimony
Right.
You know, people saying, we're not going to let him sing. We're not going to do this. He's sick and all of that. But I'm still on my feet. I'm still singing. I still travel. I do what I have to do.
Wow, what a great story. I don't know about you, but we here at It's a God Thing Radio are both inspired and encouraged and even awed when we hear stories like the one you're hearing today. We think God Thing stories prove to all who hear them how God continues to work every day in the lives of his believers. We also believe strongly that sharing God Thing stories with not yet believers might just cause them to remember similar events in their own lives. Hopefully, those remembrances will cause them to consider that there may be something to God and Jesus after all. Sharing your own God Thing story, yes, your own story, is a great way to witness to your family, friends, co-workers, schoolmates, and even strangers. Who won't listen when you begin a conversation by saying, "My goodness, you won't believe what happened to me a while back," or, "Gosh, I'm so excited about what happened to a couple at our church. Let me tell you about it." Then tell your own story or share one you've heard here. Doing so just might cause someone to accept Jesus as Savior and Lord. Now let's get back to today's program. Gary, probably everybody that's listening has a question that they'd like for me to ask you.
Okay.
How in the world did you get through all this and not get angry at God for allowing this to happen to you?
Well, in all honesty, I did get angry. I questioned, why? Why is this happening? You're using me for a ministry all my life. Why is this just stop? What did I begged God to tell me what I did. And I kept getting the same answer. You didn't do anything. But my anger didn't let me see that maybe, hey, somebody else needs to see what I've went through and what he can do for them, what he's done for me. Mm-hmm. I used to lay in my recliner and I would beg to die. I was so miserable. And I was so angry. It got to where I couldn't go to church because I couldn't walk out the front door. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that broke my heart the most is even from my home church, nobody came during that time that I remember. I wasn't coherent all the time. But I did get anger, and I questioned God just about daily. Lord, if this is the way it has to end, I just want to die. And I know I'm learning now that I'm coherent.
Right.
Some of the things I did, and I know it was hard on my kids and my grandkids, and because they heard me beg to die and get mad at God. But the anger stayed there because I was believing everything the doctors were telling me.
Of course.
You're not going to sing no more. You're not going to do this anymore. You're not going to paint. You're not going to draw. You're not going to do anything but lay in that chair and die, slowly die. And that's what I set myself to do until I heard that voice saying, get up.
When you said that, I'm reminded that's exactly what Jesus told the guy that couldn't walk when he healed him.
Amen. Yes.
And he told him to get up. And everybody knew. They knew his parents, and they knew that he'd been paralytic from birth.
Absolutely.
So you heard the same thing personally.
Right.
I think from Jesus, and I'm assuming you do too.
Absolutely. I'm 100% certain.
Gary, was that the trigger that got you over your anger or began for the anger to subside in you?
Yeah, once it made me realize that, wait a minute, I'm still here for something. I'm still here for a reason. I've been told 20 times you're not going to live through the night or whatever. I noticed the anger left, but the questions were still there. Why? And that's when I started seeing, you were hospitalized for this, and you got to talk to this guy or this lady, and you witness to them. And like singing, travel, we go to concerts. The manager of the group, he's kind of in tune like I am. And we'll just look at each other and we'll know that it's meant for me to share a part of my testimony.
Mm-hmm. So you're allowed to do that now with trust.
Oh, yes. As you're traveling. Oh, yeah. They include it. They make that very welcome because they've seen the things I've been through.
Sure.
I'm very blessed that we can do that. There are times, like I've told my friends and my family, you don't know who you're singing to. You don't know who you're talking to. And if you feel you should say something about what you've been through and you don't, there might be that one person there and walk out that door and just, that would be final, give up. They give up completely.
Well, they're right, Gary. And you know what? Neither of us know who's listening to this
That's
today.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, how are you feeling today?
I feel probably about 1,000% today.
Good for you.
Very
Scale
good.
of 1 to 10. They always ask you what your pain level is. And
Scale of 1 to 10, absolutely no pain.
no pain at all.
No pain at all.
Gary, what a great, great testimony.
It's a great God.
He is a great God. I know the answer to my last question of you is obvious. But Gary, the Lord gave you a ministry
Yes, sir, he did.
through your suffering.
Yes, I believe he did.
Through your suffering. Christ suffered for us in his ministry.
That's right, he did.
And the Lord hasn't sacrificed your life yet. But he's allowed you through your pain and through your suffering to be a help and to be encouragement to other folks. Gary, would you say that all this has happened to you is a God thing?
It can only be a God thing. It absolutely is. 20 times over.
I believe that. Gary, thank you for sharing such
You're quite welcome, Chuck. Thank you.
personal information, and you're going to be an encouragement to a lot of folks. Thanks, Gary. Wow, what a great half hour this has been. Tune in next time for more great God Thing stories, and tell all your friends to tune in too. Oh yeah, one more thing. If you or someone you know has a verifiable story which needs to be told, please email a brief summary to us at mystory@itsagodthingradio.com. That's my story, all one word, at itsagodthingradio.com. See you next time.